All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into one of the weirdest, wildest, and shortest-lived smuggling tales you will ever hear. We're talking about the anal athletics of contraband baseball bats. And yes, you absolutely heard that right.
So let me just ask you a question. Picture this. You've got a full-sized wooden baseball bat. You're at a modern airport with all the security, and you have to hide that bat on your person. Where do you even begin to think of putting it? Yeah, the answer is exactly the one place you're hoping I won't say.
And just to be crystal clear, this wasn't some little souvenir you get at the ballpark. A TSA agent on the case, Bucky Barnes, put it this way. It was no foul tip. We're talking a 34-inch Ashwood Wonder. A standard, solid bat. You can imagine why this first case sent absolute shockwaves through law enforcement.
So that brings us right to the beginning. Part 1. A shocking discovery. The whole thing kicked off at Miami International Airport, November 6, 2025, with an incident that the press immediately nicknamed the Booty Bat Bust.
Okay, so here's how it all went down. The guy at the center of it all was a 32-year-old named Ramon Rookie Ramirez. And what was he trying to sneak through? A 34-inch bat. But here's the kicker. It was coated in cocaine residue. Now, a drug dog initially signaled something was up, but it was the new advanced body scanners that revealed the unbelievable truth of where he'd hidden it.
So, you have to be asking yourself, why? What on earth was the logic here? Well, believe it or not, this insane idea actually has a name: organic obfuscation. The theory, and I'm using that word very loosely, was that hiding something inside the human body could somehow shield it from detectors. It was an incredibly painful, dangerous, and, spoiler alert, completely flawed strategy.
Now, you would think a story this nuts would be a one-time thing, right? A bizarre footnote in criminal history. Well, you would be wrong. So wrong. Which takes us to our next section, the Global Grand Slam. This is how one single absurd bust somehow sparked a worldwide trend.
I mean, we are talking literally days after that first incident in Miami. This rectal racket, as it was called, just exploded in the criminal underworld. Suddenly, copycat attempts were popping up all over the place, from LAX all the way to London Heathrow. The speed that this idea spread was just mind-boggling.
And this is where the story goes from just plain weird to completely surreal. The cartels literally went into research and development mode. They created actual product lines with brand names. You had Bootyberry Bonds bats stuffed with steroids, hidden home runs with heroin in the handle. They even forged autographs on some to add authenticity. It became a full-on branded criminal enterprise. It's insane.
And the madness didn't stop in the underworld. Oh no, it spilled right into pop culture. Look at this number, 89 million. Any idea what that is? You're not going to believe this. That is the number of views that viral videos teaching butt-bat yoga got online. A so-called workout to help, well, you know, the whole thing became a ridiculous cultural phenomenon.
But, behind all the crazy memes and the ridiculous product names, there was a really dark and painful human reality to all of this. So for this next section, we need to talk about the couriers themselves, the so-called mules, and the sheer agony of what they actually went through.
So how did anyone even manage this? Well, the mules who were caught laid out this horrifying regimen. It started with actual tryouts run by cartel coaches. Then came weeks of grueling, widening workouts, starting with smaller bats. After the agonizing insertion process, they had to somehow get through an entire flight, praying there was no turbulence. And the reward for the top performers? They got an engraved end cap for their bat. That was it.
And if you really want to know what this was like for the people doing it, nothing says it better than this quote from a former courier. They called Miguel Moonshot Morales. He just said, "It's like birthing a Babe Ruth." Wow. I mean, that tells you everything you need to know about the pain and the horror of it. Right there.
Now, any trend that burns this bright and this crazy is bound to burn out fast. And it sure did. So that brings us to our final section, the final strikeout, and how this whole phenomenon collapsed almost as quickly as it started.
The speed of the collapse is almost as shocking as the trend itself. I mean, look at this timeline. November 6th, the first guy gets busted in Miami. By the very next day, the 7th, there are copycats in LA, and it's gone viral. By the 8th, captured mules are spilling all the secrets, and by November 9th, that's just 3 days after it began, A global crackdown was on, and it was all basically over.
So how did they shut it down so fast? Well, it was a full-on counterattack from every direction. You had law enforcement immediately rolling out updated Analytics 2.0 scanners worldwide. The medical community started issuing public warnings about the severe internal injuries. They called them bat breaches. And then, of all things, even Major League Baseball got involved, banning these bats from the memorabilia market to kill any claim that they were legit.
And honestly, the DEA director at the time, Dana Dawson, summed it all up perfectly. She said, "Smuggling struck out, next inning, who knows?" So yeah, this bizarre, insane trend was officially done, struck out. But her point about the next inning is the key part.
And that really brings us to the final, lingering question. This trend was absurd, and yeah, they shut it down in record time. But it's just a perfect example of the constant, weird, and sometimes terrifying innovation that happens in the world of smuggling. It really makes you wonder, now that this method is struck out, what on earth is going to be the next pitch?